Welcome to the AI Lab Unfiltered podcast, where we take a deep dive into AI technology, tools, and applications. Today, we have an esteemed guest with us, Kim Bode, principal of 834. Kim, take a bow.
I like that you wouldn't even look at me while you're doing the intro. He couldn't do it.
He's already so self-conscious about his intros, and I don't help at all.
That's because he changes his voice.
He
you
does.
notice?
He
Like,
totally does.
yeah, it's not that deep.
Yeah.
It's never been that deep.
Oh, okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So moving on.
We've already set the...
I think we've established you and I are friends for a long time now. And I know a lot of people watching are going to be like, I figured Kim would be on this at some point. So here you are.
Do you remember how this happened, though? We were sitting at breakfast at Wolfgang's, and I was talking about, I said, I don't understand why you haven't had me on your podcast. And you're like, you don't even use AI. That's what you sound like. That's your voice.
That's
you
really
did
what
say,
he doesn't sound
I
like
think
this.
I had a question mark at the end of that. You use AI?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, like I'm in public relations. I write. Like, I just assumed you did not. Like, and I was like, yes, I'm in the digital world, but I don't use. What is AI? What's that stand for?
So let's talk about that, because the way you use it clearly is going to be different than the way I use it, than the way Pete does it. But
yeah, considering you just showed me a picture of you turning into a chimp. Yes, it is different. Very different.
I use it for comedic purposes. So I can't stand writing. I don't like writing, and I have to write all the time, blog articles to web content to emails. And so I use a lot of AI to help me write that. Now, obviously for emails, it's going to a specific person about specific points. It weaves it together, does a great job.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to like blog articles or something longer form content, what is your opinion on it? Because I know you're using it, but how much of your own thought are you putting in? Not that you're not, but I guess the point I'm trying to get to is do you see it as being still genuine or not when it writes the article?
You have to beat it into submission. You really do. Like 834's brand, for example, like our tone and voice is really hard. Like it doesn't get it. It absolutely does not get it. It sounds really disingenuous. Like you can tell, like because I'll build out, like, so we use Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, like, you know, all the things. And we were using Jasper for a while, but it's really expensive. And honestly, I felt like Claude did a better job. But you know, I'll build out the knowledge base. I'll put it all in there. Like we've got our but it just cannot, like, you know, which actually kind of gives me a little bit of pride that like, that's how hard it is to like, you know, like to
replicate.
Yeah. To replicate our, you know, we're unique, but it's really great for like Perplexity we use for research purposes. And I don't know if you guys,
Makes sense.
And so I'll like fact check things because ChatGPT will just make stuff up. And like, I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that. We were talking about this yesterday, my team, and I think the statistic is it's 40% right. Like, whereas like Perplexity, they did a study, it was like 98%. So, and it can do a lot more than research too. Like I was writing a trade show strategy for a client, and I uploaded like, you know, I shared like the overview of like what the conference was. I shared the, you know, like the website, and then I uploaded the exhibitor list, and then I provided like an overview of the client, and I was like, okay, you know, this is what they're focused on. I had uploaded like one of their capability statements or whatever, and I said, who should they target there? And it spit out like a list, and then gave me rationale as why. And it didn't get 100% of the hit list, but like when I covered it with the client, they were like, yeah, wow. And it even broke it down into tiers, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, like all of this. So
is that something that you did without AI before? Would you provide that same value? So how long would it take you to do that before AI?
Oh God. Like, I mean, you have to break it up. I have ADHD. So it'd be like a week where I do a couple hours each day or whatever, or I just give it to one of my staff to do it. But I mean, because you're thinking like you pull the exhibitor list, and then you've got to pull like, you know, go into each individual website. You got to do research on them. You know, you're still using obviously Google. You're Googling things to figure out like, okay, whatever. But I mean, it would have taken forever. And then to figure out, you know, I mean, this client, it's great because we're in we do a lot of work with very technical industries. Like we do work in defense. We do work with companies that are in like cybersecurity. So some of that shit is just over your head. Like, I don't care what anybody says when they're spitting out like names of things. And I'm just like, fuck was that? Like, I have no idea. So, the nice thing is like, it's almost like a translator sometimes. And whereas before, like, I mean, I would be deep in like Googling, like creating cheat sheets for myself to figure out like, what a lot of this stuff meant, because our job is as PR professionals or communicators is to be able to interpret, what our clients are saying. We have to become as close to experts as them in their industries. Otherwise, how could we possibly represent them either in the media or, any public facing,
and you have to do it in their voice too. So you're constantly changing personas almost.
Yeah. And it's great too, because we do a lot of strategy work, and it's great for developing the personas as well. Now we don't just throw it in there and just accept everything that comes out as like the word of God. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of go wrong. Like the other day, you can tell when somebody has generated like a post for social, like from
I hope this
chat.
article finds you well.
or it's all of the stupid like emojis. And I like was like the other day I tend to yell at chat, so like the robots will come for me first. They're absolutely coming for me first. They will.
I will like to put that on record that they will.
So, but I was like, dude. No emojis. We don't use emojis. And the thing is like, our brand is pretty sarcastic. Like, I'll throw in, like, I asked you when I came, can I swear on this? And you're like, yes. And I was like, fuck yeah. But like, we'll sprinkle in swear words, but it's not just to swear, it's to make a point. Whereas like,
for emphasis.
Yeah. Whereas like Claude will spit something out and it'll be like, why, like, the damn whatever. And I was like, you just threw that in. That doesn't even make sense. Like, and by the way, it's always a dude because it's wrong. So
because it's wrong. So it's not just the robots that are going to come after you.
Yeah, it's also
the entire male
really
population.
Everyone. Yeah, it's really what. Join the list. So. Mm-hmm.
So I want to go back. You talked about beating AI into submission. Mm-hmm. So I think that highlights a frustration that a lot of people have. So we try so damn hard to encourage people to use AI. But we're not there when they're using it. Right. So if they use it and it doesn't give them exactly what they want the first time, they may give up and say, you know what, I don't get it.
Yeah.
We hear that a lot.
So maybe people could need to hear your story of beating AI into submission and how you're kind of getting it to speak in your language. And
I think it's only as good as the information you give it. But on top of that, like, I use multiple ones, and then what is the finished product is nothing that came from any of those. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'll say, use one for research. I'll use, one for, I don't know, like Grammarly I use too, like just improve the sentence, because I like to throw commas in like confetti, and I know I overuse them. So, but I'm like, okay, make this more succinct, or, and I think AI gets very long-winded, and I'm like, that's just not 834's brand. Like, say it with as few words as you can. I also abhor the word that. And I think people overuse it, and like, just
that's interesting.
Fun exercise. Shut up. Fun exercise. Next time you write a sentence, just pull out that, and you'll be like, oh, wow, I never needed that. Interesting. But I can tell when,
and you just used it.
And you just used it.
Oh, shut up. In talking, it's different. God, I'm out of here. No, just kidding. Did Drew ever tell you how?
No.
Let's go into story time.
She's dying to get into this.
Yeah. There's some fun stories here. There's the time we shared a hotel room because we went to a trade show. This sounds way more fun than it is. We went to a trade show.
It was not fun.
No. And Drew,
whatever you're thinking.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't fun.
No. There was an attempted murder by me of him. But he decided that he booked his own hotel, and it's in Boston. And he was like, oh, it's right out, blah, blah, blah. It was like an hour away from, by the time he would have traveled there by Uber, like it would have taken him an hour. And I was like, dude, like, this is never going to work out. So I was like, you can just stay in my room, right? Like, neither one of our significant others, they were like, no one was concerned. But Drew was like, I think I'm going to snore. And I was like, I can handle it.
I
I'll fall
told
asleep.
you I snore a lot.
Anyway, at one point, he woke up with me on top of him trying to smother him.
Literally with a pillow over my head,
like,
with her knee on the pillow.
Yeah. I was like,
yelling
I
at me to shut
will
up.
murder you, man. Like, this is awful. So
Told you.
Yeah,
I gave you a heads up.
Yeah, you did. That trip also involved karaoke in a bar that smelled like sewer.
Yeah, that was all in Boston. Yeah.
Yeah, that was all in Boston. A guy named Sal. It's a whole book. There's more stories too. Oh, the time that we ate pie.
You and I could have a whole
Yeah.
podcast ourselves of just stories. That
We could
go
just
on.
do adventures and, we take the mic with us. It's like
like
a
it.
roving mic. Drew and Bode hit the road.
That actually would be a bad idea.
Anyway, back to AI.
So,
Oh, is that what we're here for?
But also, like, if you think about it, like, there's a tying this all together. There's the creative writing. That's hard for AI to get. Like,
Yeah.
so I have on my blog, Small Biz Musings, I talk, it's very personal, and AI is not going to get that. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not a humanistic
No.
creative. It's more of a marketing jargon.
Yes.
Is what it ends up doing.
And you
That's
have
what
to
I
tell
noticed
it,
the
like,
most.
to your point, you have to tell it, okay, like, lose the jargon. I don't even know what that word means. Like, I would never use that. So again, you have to build out like either the knowledge base or whatever, and you have to use other tools. And there's constantly new tools that are coming out that you can test. Claude was getting our voice for a while, and then it just shit the bed. And I don't know what happened. I actually was talking to Elizabeth Gode about it, and she said something about it hallucinating. Have you ever heard that? So I created, I was like, okay, we're not going to use this one anymore. I'll create like, a new project, new voice.
Yeah.
It's still doing the same thing. So I don't know how to get it to stop. Do you know how to get it to stop?
It's interesting because it doesn't seem to be tied to just one model where it almost like times out, where it's been out for a month and then all of a sudden it just turns to shit.
Yeah.
It just seems like 1 week it's dead on,
Yes.
the next week it's off.
Yes.
The next week it's on. I find that with all of them so far, that it's very temperamental.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I could ask it the same thing on Monday next week and it's going to give me not just a different answer, but a totally different perspective almost on it. Like it's null and void of everything I gave it before.
It's like it's not even referring to it, even when I'm like, look at the knowledge base.
It's like talking to my teenage kid.
Yeah. At least it will apologize to me, but I'm like, no, man. I actually asked it yesterday. I go, what is wrong with you? How do I fix you?
Oh shit, the robots are definitely coming for you.
they're definitely coming for me.
I do think, because they are always tweaking these models. So I think that's why you could one day get one experience, next day get another one. But, trying to imagining that we have people that actually listen to this podcast and maybe there's some benefit that we can provide. What I would say is if you have examples of your voice, your brand in writing, you can upload those and say, here, I want you to produce content in this style.
Similar fashion. Yeah.
And that
Maybe it's just not the right prompt then, because I have uploaded it, but maybe because that's a great point. The prompts are everything.
You do have to
it
be
really
very
is.
specific and very detailed.
Yeah.
And the other advice I would give on that is ask the model to give you the prompt. Say, I want you to write, I'm having trouble getting you to stay on task or on voice or on brand or whatever. I'm gonna upload different styles, but I need you to give me a prompt that I can give back to you so that you will write in my style, and it will do that for you.
I'm totally going to do that. That's
Or
great.
you can tell it you can take liberties here, but don't take as many liberties here.
Don't use the word that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, stop using, like, it'll use like almost sentence qualifiers, like, listen up. And I was like, I would never say that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to tell you right away.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But so going back to kind of that like original conversation we had at Wolfgang's at breakfast, when you said, you were kind of surprised that we were using AI as much as we were.
Yeah.
So there's a guy, Michael Smart, he's known really well in the public relations sphere. And he put out, it's called the Ultimate PR Stack. And what it is it is 86 pages of tools to use for like within PR or, the marketing sphere.
Sure.
I haven't even got through all of it, you guys, but like it talks about, it goes through like, it's for content creation, digital marketing, inspiration, research, systems and tools. So
are these all AI tools that are?
they are.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. 86 pages of
86
AI tools?
Yeah. And I'll send it to you afterwards. I really do need to write like a blog on it, but they're like, I'm just reading off the same page, like Render Forest. It's for videos. There's clean PNG background, helping you with background-free images. Some of this stuff, obviously, like if you use Canva, it exists in Canva.
Yep.
There's icons, dry icons. So if you want to get icons that don't suck, that's literally it. Spice up your designs with icons that don't suck. So some of these, like, there's Fonts Ninja, Lucid Chart, which is, you know how like you have this idea in your head, but maybe you draw it on a whiteboard and everyone in the room is like, what the fuck what is that? Like, this is what, this is a way for you to do it so people can actually understand what you're trying to, your concept is.
Makes graphics.
Yeah.
Another good one is Napkin AI.
Yes. You were telling me about that.
Love it.
And like, it just goes on and on and on, but it's interesting because they're all tools that you can use, within your day-to-day.
Right.
So I think
some of those tools, though, I think going back to training the model, though, you have to stick with it long enough.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is great to find, like a lot of graphics ones, you don't really need to train as much as I need to write something now. Some client material has to be in this voice. Here's the persona. I mean, there's a lot you invest into that ChatGPT or Claude or something to get it to the level you want, where that's why I've stuck with ChatGPT for so long. And I've used Claude, I've used Gemini, I've used the Adobe one, Adobe Studio. They're really good, and I use them for different things. But my main writer is still ChatGPT because I've seasoned it up so much that it gets me.
Nice.
It gets me.
Yeah, does it
Like
get
a
you?
good cast iron skillet.
That's what I always think. You season the grill before you put your food on it.
It is a really good point, though. You have to.
I don't cook.
Anything you want to be good
Clearly,
at,
because
you
no
have
one's
to.
seasoning a grill, you jackass.
Whatever.
Just throwing salt on the grill. Well, this will make a good steak.
Could be a flat grill. I don't know.
Yeah, nice save. Sorry, back to Pete.
We'll edit that.
No, you guys go right ahead. No,
Yeah, I brought you coffee. So
yes, thank you, by the way. It's delicious.
we also just threw you off. I don't even know what
I
you're
think
talking about.
to bring it back,
Just seasoning.
You're saying something that's really important is it's like anything you want to get good at, you have to put time into it. You can't sit down for the first time with ChatGPT and save the world. You can't even sit down for the first time and come up with a good recipe. Like, you have to learn how to talk to it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to talk to. It's like talking to a person or, someone you're in a relationship with. You got to kind of beat them into submission sometimes too, to get them to, is that a bad,
I feel like
maybe we should wipe that
you're in
one
a
off, Evan. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe take beat submission.
Beating people is
Beating's
not
into submission.
Yeah. Put a mark on that.
With relationships, Drew, it's fine.
You have to mold them.
Mold them's better.
Mold them. And like anybody that you
Also, molding somebody you're in a relationship with. Stop using the relationship analogies. It's really killing us here.
You know what?
I'm really going downhill.
Can you guys go back to talking about eating pie?
Are you in a relationship?
But I think the exact opposite of that is what we hear all the time, where it's like, oh, well, I used Gemini or I used ChatGPT and I asked it to, put together something and it didn't turn out right. Okay, you did it once.
You did it once.
If you told me to write something, I probably would do it wrong for your expectation at one time.
I tried to play the piano once and it wasn't Beethoven, so I stopped.
Just like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can assure you the tool can do it. You have to prompt it. You have to work with it. You have to get to know it.
It's a tool, people. Like,
Exactly.
you are training yourself just as much as you're training like the AI model or whatever. So, sorry, my brother's calling. I don't know how to turn. I don't know how to turn off like.
Put it by the mic.
I should have, but I don't. Can I do it on my watch? I don't know. I just got a new watch. I don't know how it works. Anyway, please don't wipe this out because this shit's funny. Like, this is literally a conversation.
We have edited nothing
thank
in
God.
any of these.
Who has time for that? Can you use an editing AI tool? God, what would that have? You'd look like the chimp, probably.
Evan's shaking his head. Yes.
Oh, shaking.
Yes, we can.
Evan's like, that's how I do my job.
Yeah.
We're going to add a little bit of hair.
Yeah, it's not gonna help. Nope. What were we talking about? Oh, but yeah. So like the other day, literally yesterday, I was using ChatGPT for something, and it was like I had mapped out content for a presentation, and I said, "Hey, can you just break this down into slides for me?" It made shit up, and I was like, "Did you just make something up?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, sorry." And I was like, it's you, but you have to be aware of that, especially if you're using this for client work. Like, be smarter than the machine, you guys. Like, right. I will admit fully, we have a client that's in international logistics, and I was using Perplexity, which is usually always right for me to do like some research on like the port closures or something. And it gave me some information, and I'd written a statement for the client, and it said something about, so the port closures, it was like, I think on the, I don't know, East Coast, doesn't matter. And it had given an alternative in China. And I didn't catch it and sent it to the client. And the client was like, well, this is an interesting solution that's not at all workable or even
so like, send our stuff 10,000 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh my God. And then it literally said, did you use AI to write this? And I was like, mother effer. And I was like, you don't want anybody ever saying that to you. And I was like, no, because honestly, or full transparency, we don't use it to write things, but we use it to help, So I was like, no, I used it for research and then clearly screwed it up. So having multiple, multiple tools that you use to kind of even cross-check each other, like otherwise just throw it into Google.
Yeah.
But
I think just reading it and comprehending what is in there, like you said, it's a tool. AI is not the process. Yeah. AI is a tool in the process to get where you're.
And I think that
there's a statement for you.
Yeah. Wow.
Mark that one too, Evan. That's a put that in the.
Nobody followed it.
That's a teaser.
Like, it's interesting to me, though, that AI is not going away. Obviously, you have a podcast on it. Multiple people have podcasts on it. But yet we're not teaching people. Obviously not. This is why I shall become a regular guest. It'll be Bode on the street.
We'll figure that
one out. I'm just like interviewing, whatever. Like, we're going to take you off and sub me in. Drew's on vacation. He's locked in the closet. But we're going to, we're not teaching people how to use it responsibly. And a good example of that is look at our higher ed institutions. I have an intern, she's probably one of the brightest that we've ever had work at 834. And she goes to Calvin, and they had this whole rule that no AI allowed.
Right.
Well, first of all, how are you even checking that? I know there's tools out there, but they're not necessarily fully accurate,
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder.
It is.
Yeah.
And I was like, why instead wouldn't you teach them how to use it responsibly, how to use it as a tool versus as the full output of something,
right.
And it was interesting because she said their professor had asked them to look, he'd written something on whatever, and it was 80 pages, and he wanted them to read through all of it and then, come back with a synopsis or something. And you can't use AI. Well, you got to the end of his piece and it said this was generated by AI. So it was okay, so you can use it.
Yeah.
But you don't want us using it. And then he came in and said, because everybody was like, this is 80 pages of crap. Of course I'm going to use AI to read this. And then, and he said, all of you have used AI. I reported you to the dean of blah, blah, blah. And somebody in the class said, well, you used AI. Yeah. If you don't want us to use AI, don't give us AI crap to analyze.
Right.
First of all, that kid's my hero. Right. But it was it doesn't make sense to me.
That brings up a good question, because with your employees and the younger generation that you're hiring into who's used to using AI, I mean, granted, we just said you can't use it in college, but they're going to use it anyway. Yeah. Everybody's going to use it. How are you putting that policy, or how are you mandating that out to them to go, it's okay to use it here, but not here?
Yeah.
What's that structure look like?
Well, it's interesting because our PR manager, phenomenal, former news reporter, she actually said the other day, she was writing something and she went to AI and she was like, no, Maddie, use your original thoughts. And she's like, we get to a point where you become so over reliant on it. You're like, do you know how to think outside of it
she's
sometimes?
stopping herself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just, we actually, because it is kind of, it's writing itself right now. Like, I don't think employers really know how to manage it or what to do with it. And, I had somebody apply for the job, and 3 months in, it was pointed out to me by another employee that the work samples provided were 100% AI generated. And that's really unethical. To the point, like, I took everything that he had written for us up to that point, he or she or they. Take that out of it.
Mark that.
Yeah. But
His name was.
yeah, and ran it through, again, one of the like a checker, AI checker, which again is not fully accurate. But when it comes back and says something is 90% plus AI, you're like,
Too much AI.
and I
It's
was
just
like,
too much.
yes, and I was like, this could get us sued by a client, literally get us sued. So that was.
So let me ask you this, based on that. Ooh, this is getting exciting now. If you said that could get us sued on a client because this was 90% AI, if what is output meets what the client is expecting, but it was written by AI, is that still unethical?
I think it depends. Like, if I'm asking it to spit out like some research on when was the defense budget slashed in the history of the US, and it, spits stuff out for me, then no. But if you're going to use it to write a full piece, I think so. Like, there should be original thought.
I'm coming
no,
at
I get
that?
yes.
I never thought of it that way but going back to other guests that we've talked to, where it's like, if you're getting that dopamine push, or if you're getting that this is what I'm looking to get out of it, and it hits that, and it's all AI generated, is it now still considered disingenuous? Or is it, because if it's even the same tone of what the client would have in it, now I get like facts and stuff like that, like if it's spitting out something like, 70% of males do this, and it's like, well, that's not even close to being accurate. I get that, that's just false facts. But for
depends
the
on what
writing
that
itself,
70% is about. I was going to let it go, and I just couldn't. I just really couldn't. Sorry. Not.
But you get what I'm saying. Like, if all of a sudden you output that and they go, yeah, that's exactly what we want, then what happens at that point?
I just don't think AI is there yet for it to be 100% what somebody would want. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
I mean, that would be a sliver of the clientele that would ever.
I mean, a full paragraph, sure. But
full content.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, you remember when AI first came out and everyone's like, oh, the robots are taking over and like it's going to replace all of our jobs. And I think what it's done is, if you know how to use it well and ethically and responsibly, it's made us more productive. It's helped streamline things. It's helped for me break down really complicated like concepts or topics. Like one of my staff members the other day took, a client that's in aerospace, and when you're talking to him, you're like, oh my God, and took something that I'd given him and threw it into Goblin Tools and said, okay, could you just break this down into so I understand it. So in that respect, it's fantastic because it's helping us understand things. It's helping us get inside almost the minds of our clients. It also is great. Like, so you were talking about like what you put into AI, helping it get tone and voice. So it's really great. So we'll, as part of our strategy process, once we get through the research, we develop audience personas for, our clients that like, these are your different, customer segments, whatever. Then taking that and putting that into your AI tool and saying, I need you to write for Mark the engineer. Yeah. And then, seeing how it will kind of spit that out, and it'll be specific to that. Now, again, it still struggles to pick up on like human, like, I don't know, like inflection or whatever, it just, it doesn't fully, it
still feels a little bit robotic and a little sterile. Yeah.
But the content is there. It's just, it's our job as like writers, as like, PR professionals to go in then and say, okay, now how do I make this, relatable? Because like, I just think, especially like, and you go back to creative writing, I write like how I talk. AI is not going to get that.
Right.
It's not going to get like the weird jokes I throw in there, or the, like I put something on LinkedIn and I said, I'm going to be sharing an outline of a plan, not a concept of a plan, but an outline of a plan. AI is not going to get that reference. Do you get that reference?
Yeah.
Okay.
I get that.
I'm just checking.
I'm supposed to use AI.
Right. You can figure it out later. But my point is, like, you can't lose who you are. And that's my concern, is some of these, we grew up as Gen Xers. You're Gen Xer too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. We're like, well, he's got the gray hair.
How much
you have
gray
no
does
hair.
he have?
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's going to go look up a picture, watch the video. But we grew up like when we still had analog things, like, like dial up, or when we didn't have computers,
Right.
at school. And so we know how to move between those two worlds. Whereas like now you have such this over reliance on technology that it actually worries me that like, we're gonna lose all this creative thinking and this big ideas, and like you expect like, say, AI to like give you the idea versus like coming up with it on your own. And I don't know, that worries me. It's just kind of like art, like
It's
what if
kinda like-
suddenly you're an artist by turning your face into a chimp? Like that's terrifying to me.
But again, I go back to, and this is a huge debate right now, what is considered art then? Because then you can say, well, I didn't paint the picture, I used Photoshop.
Yeah.
Does that make me not an artist? So I think it's just the level of acceptance of what the audience wants out of it determines that.
How about these AI generated headshots? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I get mad when people have like old photos in their LinkedIn and it doesn't look at all like them. These AI generated ones, I was like, first of all, when I see you in person, one of these is not like the other.
That brings up
Bothers
another
me.
question then. When you're working with a client, do they give you content like that where it's obvious they wrote it using AI, or they generated it with AI saying, oh yeah, here's my headshot, or here's a picture, or here's content that's 100% AI, where you're going, I cannot use this?
No, because they use us to generate all that, thank God. And I don't think they really truly, in some of these more technical, industries, they're not using AI. AI's not either to that level to understand those really, really complex whatever, or it's just like they wouldn't even consider or think of using it. It's definitely, I feel like, used more widely by, like the business community in terms of like, or whether it's in the communications arena or, like management, but I don't see it being used as much in like some of the industries we serve, like med device, even manufacturing, the defense industry. So
Do you go ahead? I don't want to keep talking.
unless they're gonna like generate some like crappy LinkedIn posts with all the emojis, and if you're using that, like, what is it? It's the blue icon, like it's a diamond, and that's your bullet points. We all know that came from ChatGPT. People,
nobody even knows the key combination to make that.
No, like.
I am surprised though that I fully expected that you were using it for more content creation, and I'm surprised by how you're using it and how your view of it for content creation. And I get, Drew has something you talk about a lot is the authenticity of it, right? And you could lose that.
Yeah.
But I think we're also at this period of time where we're transitioning into what this new species is and how it integrates with society and how we do things, where it's not, you don't automatically assume that people are using AI for things today, but there's a day in the not too distant future where you're just going to assume that everybody's using AI for everything that you get. That email, that text message, that blog post, that LinkedIn post, whatever. It's going to be a point where we're going to assume that it is AI, and you're going to be trying to decipher whether or not a human actually.
Well, then
did
it'll be
that
the
or not.
people who aren't using AI that are probably further
Standing
ahead.
out.
Doesn't it feel?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that speaks to the creativity thing, because I believe that there will be this flood of AI shit that just comes out
Yeah.
everywhere. But then people are going to realize that that's not real value, and it will come back to still the people that are good at creating that kind of thing, that are passionate about, delivering content that's meaningful, and it will come back. We got to get over this wave, and it
makes me feel better, because it does kind of freak me out. Like, I don't want us to lose like our humanity, like what makes, I feel like, me or my brand relatable is that like I am flawed, I am vulnerable. I talk about my failure. I talk about like, I'm very, very raw, and that's not, like when you get this over polished crap, like a AI generated headshot, or, like
it's too perfect.
Yeah. And like, it's not relatable.
Yeah.
And then think about like the next generation of these young people. Like, are they going to think everything has to be perfect?
I think they already
terrifying.
do.
Yeah.
I think the social media is already, this is just going to exacerbate that.
Yeah. And now this is when I would like to take a shot, not of coffee.
What's in the coffee?
But it is like, it's exhausting too, because, I just told you there's this 86 page, report that, all these tools you can use. And when you're in, especially the agency world, your job is to stay on top of trends. And like, this could be a full-time job. I could have an employee that's all they do is, sorry, got to stay on top of this. And one of our core values is work smarter. And it's, what can we do, or what are the processes or technology or resources that we can integrate into our workflow that will help us, that will make things less, productive. But to your point, now you're expected to churn out even more content because, well, you're using AI, or, and it's just, what you're going to get is a lot and very little quality. And I think I said that the other day. I was reading through one of our blogs, and I was like, this literally adds no value. We're not posting this. But like, the expectation is, well, we have to post, and we do once a week, and it's on this time, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, if it's bad, I don't want it out there. But it's funny because like, I had to say that to my team, and they were like, oh, so that's okay then.
Wrangling them back to that quality, not quantity. Yeah,
I was like, guys, like, I need you to look at things like critically and say, would I want to read this? No. Like,
right.
If it doesn't add value, don't put it out there.
Exactly. So you mentioned it augments kind of your skill set. Mm-hmm. Do you see it taking over any jobs? Like, I keep going back to writers themselves, and I do think it's going to get to a point where you don't need a writer, or at least not a skilled writer as before. Do you see it heading that way with people you're hiring? Like, are you hiring people that, okay, they might not have all the skills, but they know AI?
No, because I can teach it, and I have somebody teach it. But I think for me, like, writers are even more important. I'm reading this book right now on like, it's called On Air. It's about I think I was telling you about it at breakfast. I can't remember.
I think so, yeah.
It's about NPR, the start of NPR. Good journalism and good writers, I personally don't think will ever. I don't think they will be replaceable. Mediocre, sure. So, yeah, not a problem. But if you have these higher standards and you want to be able to relate to your audience or really connect with your audience, I don't think you can do that with AI. And maybe that's a super unpopular opinion.
Yet.
Maybe, yeah. But
because I do think, and going back to the curve that you were talking about, where you're going to get this flood of just garbage. Mm-hmm. I remember growing up in the video world, in video production, my whole background. I remember when YouTube came out, and it was such a game changer because it was the speed of delivery just 10x tried to get stuff out. So everybody was just pushing shit out. It didn't matter. It was grainy. It was ugly. Phones weren't set up for it yet because YouTube was just invented. So it was just this crappy stuff, and everybody in the video production world is like, this is garbage. Why would anybody want to do this? And it took off like crazy, like wildfire, because of the speed of delivery. And the whole quality level, the whole bar of quality massively went down. That's why we had so many garbage videos that came out. Luckily, iPhone and everybody else said we got to up the quality of our cameras because this is now a medium. But that definitely changed that landscape for a while in the beginning.
Yeah.
It improved the quality of the video, but the phone didn't improve the quality of the content.
Yes.
So it's interesting that kind of bringing it back around to what you're saying is that
content's still garbage.
It's still exploded with all kinds of terrible content. So, what does that mean for people in your industry? And there's going to be this flood, and it's wild.
It's almost like now that the hype's died down, once we get to that point, it's like, okay, now we got to get back to the real people that knew how to do this, the professionals, because everything looks like garbage.
And nobody's arguing that's not going to completely change everything. I mean, look at the news industry.
Right.
Like there's less reporters that are doing more. So like the way PR used to function, you at one point you were faxing press releases. You had people that would work at a newspaper for 30 plus years. So that's changed. Now you have freelance writers and they write for 5, 6, 7, 8 different, publications. But you still have to, at that core, you still have to have a relationship. Because they know when you're just sending them crap that's been like literally just,
churned out.
Yeah, churned out. Now I will take, it's my job as like a PR professional to know, okay, what is news? What is an angle that is relevant to this publication or this reporter? But I can use AI to say, what has this reporter written on in the past? Get some research around that. And then say, okay, so this is the story. How can I customize this, or how can I, how can I write a pitch that is targeted to them? And then, I'll get really good stuff out of that. But again, it goes back to the prompt. It goes back to understanding how PR works, how the media world works. That's not something I think AI is just going to like be able to, But it's funny too because you used to pay all this money for these big media tools, whether it was like, Vocus or Cision or, now there's Muck Rack, and it was to get these reporter contacts. Well, you can really use AI now to get a lot of that information. Like Perplexity will give you, here's our top 5 reporters in the finance industry or whatever, which is fantastic. So, you're not paying $7, $8, $9, $10,000 a year, and that's low for a tool that, quite frankly, can't keep up with how quickly people are changing jobs in that industry. So, but those tools are then starting to figure out how they can integrate AI in to still be relevant.
You talked about the relationship with the client. We talked a lot on here about how AI is augmenting what you're already doing, whether you're, a doctor or whatever it is. And it's just got me thinking that can still be your differentiator, right? Is the human still has a relationship with the human, the client, and the service provider, and the AI is just augmenting what you're delivering. So you can still, because people, regardless of technology, still thrive on relationships, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't change that. I think it just changes what's delivered, but not necessarily the relationship, and that can still be, a worthwhile thing. So
that was another conversation we were having yesterday, or like our staff happy hour. It's like you have a relationship with your phone now, and that makes you almost, at the end of the day, you're like, I'm really tired. And so instead of like, because you've been interacting on that all day, you feel like you've maybe have been interacting with other people, but there's no face-to-face component, So like what you're getting now is people not actually going out. They're not doing things. They're not going out and experiencing things because they're like, well, I have it at my fingertips, or I can just never leave my house and get what it is I need. Which, by the way, you're starting to see in young people entering their career. They have absolutely no idea how to hold a conversation. Sure. They don't know how to network. They don't know how to say thank you. I had people reach out all the time about a job or internship, and I have more and more parents that reach out on behalf of their child, which PSA, don't do that. And, my kid's looking for, or my sister's brother's friend is looking for, a internship. Can I introduce you? And I'll say, if I respond, I'll say, you can have them reach out to me.
Yeah.
And then I'll get an email that is really poorly written. Clearly didn't use AI. Please, in that instance, use AI. And I'll be like, hey, so my mom, blah, 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 said to whatever. And so, I'm reaching out about an internship. And I'll respond and say, now would have been a good time for you to attach your resume, but I'll go ahead and ask for that.
Right.
And also, can I get some, writing samples or whatever? And that person will, this actually just happened to me. So like a week after I sent that, I got the email back. No body of the email, just the resume attached. The name of the file, my resume. Ah, yes. Let me go ahead and rename that for you so I can track your efforts, or just hit delete. And there were no writing samples. There was nothing, because they don't even know how to write, And when I ask for stuff, they'll be like, here's a research paper. I don't want a research paper. When I was trying to get a job, I had, there's all these sites you can use. Medium, like create your own blog site, write about anything. I don't care. Paint drying. Show to me that you have some original thought, because at the end of the day, that's going to be what stands out, especially in this world of AI that we're living in. Yep. That you actually have original thoughts in your head, that you stand for something, that you're passionate about something. I don't want, I want to read great writing. I don't give a shit about sentence structure. I want to feel that piece.
Right. Well, I think that goes back to, are we lacking critical thinking because AI has been doing so much that they can't even think past okay, this is what you're going to want to see. Put myself in your shoes. Yeah. I want to come work for you. I want to show you my best work. I want to show you my resume, and I want to show you how my resume lines up with my work and with your company. To have all of that threaded through, you're not gonna get it.
There's like no self-awareness, or there's no like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's like no, they don't know how their actions or are interpreted by the opposite, right. By the other individual.
Which is interesting, because you could put that in ChatGPT and ask.
Yeah.
You could literally go in and say, I want to go work for this company. What should I show? What would line up? Here's my resume. Here's my samples.
If I get a letter that says, Dear Hiring Manager, I was like, really? Why don't you go to my website and see the 8 people that work there? And then just pick one. Put all their names in the Dear line. But, I mean, or even like, you could use AI. I mean, tell me Kim Bode, Grand Rapids. Right. You know what it's going to say? She likes dogs. She likes drinks. And she likes whatever, stirring the pot. Okay. But you can use it to be better, right? But don't use it to replace original thinking, I guess. So
I get you.
I didn't realize I was so passionate about this until you said something. Like, what the hell?
Oh, you hit a nerve on that one.
Yeah, my God. Like, let's go back to talking about pie.
We get passionate about these things because we want people to succeed. Mm-hmm. And you feel some for someone who is struggling with that and doesn't have that skill. You can delete that email. You can say, you're not for me. But then you start thinking, well, how are they going to get a job anywhere because if I don't like it, nobody's going to like it.
Yeah.
We have had guests on here talk about AI and education, and I think that's where you can help. Because, another thought that I had is that same kid existed before social media.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So 100%. And there will be that same kid 100 years from now.
Yeah.
Where they're just
really good point.
They're just not there.
They're phoning it in.
They have a lot to learn yet, but I think it really is, and I'm going to continue beating this drum and working with Charles L. Wood and trying to get AI more into education, elementary school, high school, whatever it is, and not to use it to cheat and create their content, but how do I use this to improve what I'm already doing? Right. I'm passionate about basketball and whatever. and I can amplify that with AI. I can help better convey my feelings about it, or come up with a better practice plan, or whatever it is around that. It's just augmenting me. We have these kids that want a job.
Right.
AI can help them get that job. AI can interview them and help them figure out what career they should go into. Because if they can't compose an email, maybe PR and marketing is not the field for them.
Exactly.
But they might be a great doctor or a whatever.
Yeah.
Electrician.
It's funny that you said, like, going back to your point about that kid always existed. I remember when I came into the professional world, I grew up super blue collar. Like, my dad worked at GM for 30 plus years. Like, I didn't understand, like, all the silverware on a table. I didn't understand, networking. I didn't understand what a board was, or a committee, or any of that stuff.
Right.
And I didn't get that until somebody kind of showed me, or I started observing people around me. So I do think it's important that we take the time to educate. We take the time to point these, young people in the right direction. I do think I get rather jaded and a little bitter at times, because, like, you also want the parents to do that. And it's frustrating to me that, what I see more and more is the parents are doing everything for that kid. So they're basically the AI for that kid, and that kid is not going to succeed,
Right.
Or the path for them to get to self-reliance is long and painful. And I don't have kids, so I have no idea, like, I have 8 dogs, for fuck's sake. Like, I don't know I have no idea what it's like to raise another human, but I do feel like I end up raising them once they come to work for me.
Sure.
And I feel very responsible for them. So, you have some great ones, you have some ones, and you have ones that are like, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah.
But, it's those ones that, like, were more independent, were driven, and took, like, initiative, and have that self-awareness, that those are the ones that, like, I'll remember for always.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they've gone on to have very, very successful careers. And I could be like, I knew them when.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it does like, even in education, and again, not doing your classes or anything, but because parenting, there's no handbook for that. Nobody gets it right. It's pure luck in a lot of cases, especially with my kids, that they've turned out to be decent. If there will be a time in the not too distant future where AI will be there for you, and it will say, okay, you're looking for a job, go ahead and you type the email to Kim, and I'll look it over for you, and I'll give you some feedback. And it's like, dude, that sucks.
I would love it if AI would talk to me like that. That would be fantastic.
It will.
It will.
The guy that we just had in here before you came in is working on, like, an emotional AI.
Oh, that's great.
And we talked about sarcasm. We talked about, and it's going to be able to not only recognize it, but also give it back to you.
Right.
So it will be fun. And, to have that little sarcastic friend that sits on your shoulder and helps you through life. It's not doing life
me
for
for
you.
you.
Oh, yeah.
Bro.
That's exactly this relationship. You have summed up this relationship.
Little Kim sitting on your shoulder.
Oh my gosh.
Do it.
Couldn't have
Do
summed-
it.
All right, we got to wrap this
That's
up.
your next.
We gotta wrap
That's your
this
next Sora video. Is Kim sitting on your shoulder?
No, it will not
Yes, that would be hilarious.
be. Well, Kim, it's been real.
It always is.
I'm glad you're on here. I'm glad you use AI.
Yeah, I was like, what?
I'm glad you could be a guest. Where can we find you?
Everywhere, Drew. I'm everywhere.
Your shoulder.
I'm always in the background. So I have a blog, smallbizmusings.com. You can, like, I spend probably most of my time on LinkedIn right now. Obviously 834.com. But LinkedIn, because, like, everything else is depressing. So, I'll post pictures of my dogs on Instagram, but it's few and far between, and we also, we do a podcast, Happy Hour Hustle. Obviously, very different, not focused on one topic. We talk a lot about, like, small business, because, again, no playbook for that. Best of luck to anyone who wants to start a business. And, and a lot about just, like, the world and the state of the world. So it's really depressing, which is why it's called Happy Hour Hustle, as we drink
Can't
through the
wait to
entire
tune in.
thing. It's fantastic, but yeah, all of that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on. Appreciate it. And if you want to know more, like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody.